To the Brother Henry and You Show. I am your host, Henry Harris. Welcome to the Brother Henry and You Show. I am your host, Henry Harris. Thank you so much for watching this Sunday morning. We have a very interesting subject, as I was telling my friend Lionel Sneed from Fort Worth, Texas, about the subject, and I know he's excited about it. And first of all, I want to tell you thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me, friend.
Today we're going to be having a discussion. We're going to be talking about should one stay in an abusive marriage because they had children with the abuser. Throughout the program, I'm going to ask many of you to comment your thoughts if you think they should stay or shouldn't stay. There are many dynamics when it comes to that, and we're going to try to cover as much ground as possible. But Lionel, before we get started, is it okay if you can lead us in a little prayer,
Oh, absolutely.
and then we'll go from there?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's pray. Father, we just thank you for this time. God, we praise and give you honor, Father, because you are worthy of praise and honor. Father, my simple prayer today is that your name is uplifted and glorified. I pray, Father, that you speak through this platform, that you speak through Henry and I, and that whatever is said today, Father, that it reaches someone who is asking for hope, someone who is asking for answers today, God, that you would use this topic and this platform to give them exactly what they're searching for. Father, I love the fact that you said that when your word goes out, it never comes back void. And I just thank you today that when this goes out, that it will not come back void, that those who are held captive by abuse, held captive by all forms of negative, that they will be set free. And we just thank you, and we thank you for all that you're going to do and all that you've already done. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for saying that prayer. At this time, we're going to do what we call share moment. That's where I take my cell phone and I share today's broadcast. I'm asking all you that are watching to do the same.
I'm going to go ahead and do that too.
Okay, awesome. Should one stay in an abusive marriage because they had children with the abuser? So, Lionel, how you been doing?
Good, man. I mean, here in Texas, we're burning up.
Oh, really?
Oh, good Lord. Um, we had a little bit of relief yesterday, because of the rain and everything. But for the most part, it's August in Texas and it's hot. So we spend a lot of time on the inside trying to stay cool. But overall, I'm really happy. I'm really grateful for each and every day. So everything's doing great.
That's awesome. It's so good to see you again.
You too,
We've
man.
been anticipating this. We was going to do it last week, but of course we had some technical challenges.
Right,
But I
right.
believe everything happens for a reason.
Everything.
And today was supposed to be the day designed for us to do this. So the question is, should one stay in an abusive marriage because they had children, or abusive relationship because they had children with the abuser? And
That's a
I realize that this is a very loaded question. Not only is it a loaded question, but it's also a very, and I didn't think about this at first, but it's also a very sensitive question
extremely.
as well. And my guest and I will share some thoughts and some ideas with you today. And we hope that these ideas and thoughts will challenge you, build you, and somehow inspire you. We will be addressing some questions, some very sensitive, but at the same time, much of it may be thought provoking. We want to ask everyone in the comment section to please be respectful of all the people's thoughts. Like I said, it's a very sensitive subject, a very loaded question, and we just want everyone to be respectful, and we want to know your thoughts. And we want to hear from you. Let us know in the comment section. Should one stay in an abusive relationship? Please comment below. Let us know. Share this video as well as you're watching. So this is a subject I take very seriously, and I believe my friend take very seriously as well. And I believe it deserves dialogue. So what sparked my interest, as I do a little introduction before we get into it, what sparked my interest in doing the show is that, as many of you know, I do what I call, I don't do it every morning, but I do what I call today's question. In July 26th, on my fan page, I had posted the question. I said, should one stay in an abusive marriage because they had children with the abuser? That day was a normal day for me. And of course, I love the feedback and to any of our today's questions. But this question was rather different, Lionel, compared to all the other questions I have asked. It was not until a couple of days later when I posted that where the post literally went viral.
Yeah.
And my first reaction was wow, and I think that was your reaction too. Um, I was not expecting that, and that was not my motive or intent. Oh, let me post this so it'll go viral. That was not the plan at all in posting that question. So after observing over 40, I think where we're at now, over 40,000 comments, almost 9,000 likes, over 500, almost to 600 shares, and has reached over 1 million, not 100,000, not 500,000, over 1 million people. And from what I understand, from what my friend Lionel told me, that it is still growing and it's still trending, and people are still talking about it. And July 26th was at least 3 or 4 weeks uh, away. I mean, compared to what to August 15th. So I could not go another day pretending like that this subject didn't deserve a show or talked about. I remember when I first sent the invitation out to you to talk about the show. You didn't know what you wanted to talk about at first, and
No, not at all.
I told God, thank you. And what if we would have had planned that? This show probably would have never came about, and I couldn't have chose the better person
Mm.
to address this subject. At first hand, looking at the question, should one stay in an abusive um, marriage because they had children with the abuser? The common response from some people, as you know, is, "What a dumb question.
Yeah.
That's irrelevant. It's just not that important." Some people would say. My immediate thoughts: what one may consider dumb or stupid or irrelevant, whatever that means to you, the other may consider worth a discussion, and that's why we're having this discussion this morning. While some refer to staying or an abusive marriage or even involving children, summing it up as a dumb question, this only indicates that maybe you are being very inconsiderate and maybe insensitive to the subject at hand, to those who are really struggling right now in this area. and what we're going to be talking about. The purpose of today's show or program is to have a healthy dialogue, to address some questions, and to provoke thought. And it is my honor right now to introduce to you my dear friend from Fort Worth, Texas, Lionel Sneed. Once again, how are you doing, sir?
Good, good. I tell you what, I love that introduction.
Well, thank you. I had to, like you got to like lay down a little groundwork before you
Yeah,
get into the main thing.
yeah,
So I just wanted to do that. So I
right,
appreciate you being on today, and that's our subject today. Should one stay in an abusive marriage because they had children with that person, or should they stay in a relationship? Comment below. Let us know. Do that throughout the program. Share this video um, with your friends. So the key words here, if you and I can see why it triggers some people because the key words here are stay,
right,
abusive, and children. I mean, if you were to take out those three words out of that sentence, I can see why it's sparking some interest. And of course, that alone would trigger a response. We're
right.
talking about reaching over 1 million people. I mean, certainly it has reached a response. So, um, before we get into the questions, can you tell us a little bit about yourself to the audience that may not be familiar with you, and share your story as it regards to this topic that we're talking about today?
Sure, sure. Let's see. I'm a 10-year military veteran.
Thank you for your services.
Thank you. I've been married to my best friend for over 21 years. We have two wonderful boys, two teenagers. One 18-year-old who just graduated from high school, so he's trying to sort things out with college and everything. And we have a 15-year-old. He just turned 15. And I think why I'm so excited about this topic today, and especially when Henry and we were just going over everything. And, like you said, at first I didn't know what to talk about. But then it's like when I saw this topic on his page, it's like, when God reveals certain things, it's like there's no guessing to it, and it just comes clear. And when
Yeah,
I saw the question with this topic, it just came clear, and I felt compelled to say, okay, this is what we should be talking about.
yeah.
And I think why that was so compelling to me was because see, coming up as a child, I lived in a household with domestic abuse, and so I felt that okay. Uh, I know the impact that I had and experienced coming up as a child, and even now as an adult, there's things that I'm still dealing with in regards to the living in that situation. And I was like, you know what? A lot of times, your experiences are the things that can really help people to receive freedom from that
Hmm.
which bonds them. So that's why I was just so excited, in regards to. And so we've lived in Texas since 2004. I'm a native of Beaufort, South Carolina, y'all. So I'm a country boy through and through. Yeah, but we live here in Texas, and we ended up here because we moved from Atlanta, Georgia. Because my wife's job was relocating, so we've been here, and we still haven't gotten used to the Texas heat. Still haven't. So I don't think we ever will. But that's a little bit about me. I don't want to ramble too much about. Oh yeah, I'm an author as well. I've written several books. Matter of fact, some of the things that I'm going to speak on today regarding this topic is in my latest book, which is Thinking, Growing Grace, and Henry will talk more about that and so forth. But I'm super excited. I'm super honored to be on the show. Henry and we've been friends, golly, for about 5 or 6 years. We've been friends, and
Oh
so
yeah.
I'm in good friends. So I'm really honored and happy that he's asked me to share my story and testimony with you guys today.
Well, thank you so much for introducing yourself to our audience. You've been on the show before, but oh my, I think This your second appearance or third?
Uh, Probably second or third, I think. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah, second or
okay. So let's start out with this question. Um, why is this such a sensitive subject to people?
third.
Why do you think this is a sensitive subject to people?
Well, you know what? When you posed that question, it was a question that I had to sit back and ponder in some thought, and I was trying to sort that out. Now, one thing that I will say, and one thing that I realized through all the question is that there's no one answer.
Yeah.
No one answer, no one size fits all. Because there are a lot of things that people are dealing with, a lot of things that people experience that fit their scenario in a different situation. But I think one of the things that I came up with is that I think a lot of times why it's such a sensitive subject is because one, there are so many people who have experienced or witnessed
Hmm.
uh, abuse in some form or manner, whether it's physical, whether it's verbal, emotional, whatever way it is. People can identify with it, and uh, and if you can identify with it, that means that you have memories. And so a lot of times what happens is that if that question is posed, or if you see something, let's say, I know for me, when I watch television sometime, and if I see something that comes on television that has something to do with domestic violence, or maybe a young man or is being abusive towards a woman, that stirs up something in me.
Yeah.
It stirs up anger, it stirs up pain, and it stirs up again like it's fresh, So I think one, people have either experienced or witnessed abuse in some way, or it just rekindles old feelings.
Yeah, I agree, and I feel the same way as well. I think it's because it is something that either some are currently going through,
Right.
or something that have, and it really relates to a person much more that have actually been there,
Right. I totally
compared to compared to someone who's just talking about it. You can actually say, "I've lived it," and and based off of what you're saying, even going into your adulthood, for some people, um, they still struggle with that in their adulthood as
very
well.
much.
And um, I think that can happen when we see things like that happen when we were children, where our mother being abused or father or however it may turn out. There's things that you may witness or you may have seen as a child that is hard for you to unsee when you become an adult, but you know that it is a real reality, and you know it's something it's something that really happened. Have you ever had those moments where you try to erase it out of your head, like, and try to forget it, and it just gets, I don't know if worse is the right word, but it just gets worse. Like, it happened, it's there, but until you deal with that, it's like a it's like a sickness that you have until you get it some treated, get something to treat it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like uh, the feelings don't actually go away. I
Yeah,
mean, they may remain dormant, but not. I mean, not even the feeling, but the behavior may not go away. It just remain dormant. And there's certain things that may take place, or certain situations that you may find yourself in that may trigger those emotions, that may trigger those actions, whatever they may be. And then, I think it's at some point in time um, where you'll either begin to honestly acknowledge it and try to deal with it, or if not that, you'll continue the perpetual cycle of abuse. So the the prayer and the hope is that if you are either experiencing it, or you are the one who is the abuser, or the certain things that you're dealing with emotionally, that you do seek help. So that is always the end outcome that you would like to see.
Okay, the common response for anyone that's in an abusive situation, and I understand this because I've said it before, and maybe you've said it. The common response for anyone in an abusive situation, uh, is just leave. You
Hmm.
know, I want to ask you this question: why could that be dangerous for somebody that's watching right now? I mean, it's nice to say just leave, or why don't they just leave? Just throw up your deuces and just move on with your life, pretend like nothing didn't happen. Many are saying, especially when are involving children, that they couldn't. Um, so tell me why, to some people, that could be dangerous for them right now to just leave. I mean, that sounds nice, and
Right.
I think that's a nice gesture. I mean, I don't want anyone in an abusive or staying with an abusive person because they had children with that person. So, but for some people, it's not that easy. They just can't walk away. I mean, there's a lot of deep, dark stuff. That's layers of stuff that leads to a person to actually just leave. So, why
Right.
can that? Why is that? Why could that be dangerous for some people?
Um, well, let's see. I uh, I think the first thing that I want to say is that yes, you should leave. Because
Yeah,
I say I don't think that I answered that question, but I think that you should leave. But what I do also realize too, where when you say uh, uh, basically with the question, is that I, it's a very difficult situation to leave because um, there's so much uncertainty, you
yeah,
know. And I know a lot of times people, it's very easy to say, yeah, you should just leave.
mm-hmm,
But that's speaking from an outside perspective, looking in, and the person who's actually living it, who's actually in the thick of it, their perspective could be completely different.
yeah,
They're they may feel trapped in so many ways, whether that's physically trapped, emotionally trapped, psychologically trapped. They may feel that. So it's more easily said than done. And especially when there's children involved, it's like you have this picture of how you want life to be with your family for your children, and that's a two-parent household and everything. So it's like when that picture becomes a little skewed and maybe the possibilities of that not taking place anymore, then it leaves people to question. And there's certainly more things that I want to add on that as well. They go a little deeper into
yeah,
the psyche behind that as well. Um, but I think sometimes there's been people who have left and their situation ends up being worse. That's whether it's homelessness or other things leading to the situation. Uh, well, I won't say not worse, but not better, or not
yeah,
an ideal situation that will bring some peace and some stability. So that person may not see an opportunity or way to where they can place themselves and their children in peace and stability. So,
and deep down inside, do you do you think they really want to leave?
I honestly think people don't want to be in situations that causes them pain and discomfort. That's
Yeah,
just part of our innate needs. For
hmm,
comfort and let's say security. So they don't actually want to be in that. But I think sometimes you just don't know what to do. If you don't have a great support structure, somebody who are a support structure where you feel you can go to that provides a safe space,
hmm,
then that leaves it more hesitant. And I think also, which there's some things that I was going to talk about later, but I'll mention this as well because I feel that it ties into the subject as well. I feel that sometimes that through that environment of abuse, there begins to be develop an unhealthy sense of codependency.
mm,
And And that could be where maybe that person's self-esteem is just shot. It's just
Yeah.
gone. Whatever esteem that they have that was built up in some way comes from the abuser. So they may feel that, okay, well, this happens, but at least they love me.
Yeah.
And that's a situation where um, the definition or the viewpoint of love is skewed. So I think one of the most important things of helping a person to leave that situation is that you have to have the proper perspective of what love is and
Yeah.
how you are to be loved. That's whether that's from a husband or wife perspective or whether that's from a relationship perspective, is that you have to have the right perspective of what love is and how love should be administered. If you don't have that and all you know and all you've seen, whether it's in the current situation that you're in or whether it's just growing up in a situation, has been a dysfunctional view of love, then you tend to think that that's the norm, that that's just how it is, and you
Hmm.
tend to gravitate towards it.
Yeah, and I agree with everything you were saying as far as why it's dangerous for some people to leave. Some things I was thinking was, I think you mentioned emotional difficulty.
Hmm.
Um, some people can't just leave because of life threatening. I've heard
Absolutely.
men say, if you leave, I'm just gonna put it out there. If you leave, I'm gonna kill the whole family. I'm gonna kill myself.
Yep.
I've actually heard and seen these things.
Yep.
So it could be life threatening for some people. Um, Another one could be a custody battle over the children.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean, it's deep because it's like, okay, you feel that like that person would feel that they're willing to sacrifice themselves to protect others, especially if this person is being one to cast out threats. And
yeah,
then look, honestly, sometimes let's say if you leave and you get things like restraining orders, sometimes those things fail people miserably.
hmm,
Okay, they fail people miserably because it's like, okay, well, this has to happen in order for us to intervene. And by then, it's like the person is reaching out for help, but before any action is administered, it's too late.
yeah,
So it's like I said, that person, they may feel that, okay, in order to protect the people that they love, whether it's their children or whether it's their family members, they uh, they decide to sacrifice themselves to keep other people from being hurt. Or sometimes it's a situation where the abuser, they threaten to kill themselves, you
yeah,
know, and that person, they don't want to see that, because so many other factors come into play, maybe where they love that person, or they don't want their kids, parent to come to such a tragic end. I wish, but they could be in the same position as well at the hand of that abuser. Or it could be to where, like you said before, they don't want a long, drawn out custody battle for fear of losing the children, especially if that individual is the provider.
yeah,
So if they're placed in a situation where they may lose the children and they know how that person is, they're like, well, you know what? That may put the kids back in a situation where they will be abused as well. So, like I said before, it's no one answer. It's a whole variety of things, but I think those are some of the main ones that come about.
okay, that's awesome, and thank you for answering that question. So, for some people, it can be dangerous to leave, but there's an opposite side of it too, where if you are with an abuser, you had children with, why do some people choose to stay?
Let's see. I touched on some of the things earlier too. Low self-esteem. I think if well, you've been torn down for so long, you've been torn down at the foundation of who you are, who God says you are. What He says that you're blessed, you're a child of God, you're beautiful, you're highly esteemed, you're righteous. And
Hmm.
if all those things have been attacked and torn down, were you told where, look at you, you're not beautiful, you're not worth anything, and you've been told that for years, and some cases for years, then you start to internalize that. And I think one key phrase is that nobody will ever love you like I love you.
Yeah.
That if you leave me, nobody else is going to want you. So you start to internalize that, and you start to begin to rationalize well, okay, I may not have this, but at least I got this, or this person is not this, but at least they're that. At least they love me. And then I think sometimes people, uh, I like to put, they don't have a good support structure. They don't have a safe place where they can go, or they may just simply uh, um, wait a minute. Okay, but maybe, like I said, that person is the financial breadwinner. They don't have financial support, or they don't want to put their themselves and their children in a situation that's not stable. And they feel like, well, okay, I left this, but the situation that I went to is really no better. Um, and then maybe the abuser threatens to kill themselves and them. So it's a plethora of things that that can come about that will keep that person from leaving, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was thinking about that question too, and I think a lot of it has to do with that society um, has normalized it
Oh, absolutely. That- that's
in some way.
huge.
Oh, it's normal, it's what everybody's. It's just you just got to deal with it.
Yeah.
So, like you said, sometimes there's nowhere to go. There's no support system, or at least, and we know that there is, but in their minds right now, in their hopeless situation, they feel like there is no support. Their family don't, and I've seen cases where the family didn't even believe the victim.
Right. Right. Yeah.
They're like, "Oh no, he's not. No, that ain't going on. No,"
Yeah.
and I've seen cases like that too.
Well, it's almost like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You
Yeah,
know, you see uh, the evil side, but the family members see the nice side, and that's who they think they are, and that falls right into the thing where that the abuser is the master manipulator, the master
yeah,
manipulator, and then there's some situations where people know, okay, but maybe the abuser is a good provider. Maybe the abuser has a way of where they provide so many things for the family or family members or outside circle, and they don't want to give that up. So they basically encourage you to hang in there and stay in the situation, and it'll get better. So it's so many dynamics to it, but ultimately at the end of the day, you have to do what is best for your well-being and your
yeah,
children, because there are residual effects, there are consequences, things that will be deeply rooted and take root if you don't find a way to remove yourself from that situation, which I'll talk about that later as well.
okay.
Yeah.
So, in what ways staying in abusive marriage? You said it a couple of times that it affects the children. It affects the children. In what ways does it affects the children?
Well, I think about the scripture where it says a little yeast works its way through
Yeah.
the whole batch, and that is so true. And it's basically, if you keep yourself and your children in a situation, then the the effects of the abuse begin to internalize. And
Hmm.
then at some point, what is internal? It has to find a way to manifest itself or to materialize itself with outward expression. It just is not able to stay within. It will find a way out to manifest itself. And one of the things that I wanted to do is in my book, Thinking, Growing Grace, there's a chapter called From Broken to Beautiful, And I want to read a segment from that page. And uh, I'm gonna try not to read too much, but it's so important what I want to read from this. And it
Yeah,
basically pertains and talks about my experience, or just one of my experience coming up as a kid, experiencing domestic violence. And this just sets tone. This talks about when my mom and dad they had just been in a fight, and things had escalated, and things had got to the point where, okay, my mom was getting ready to leave. So I'm going to pick up and read that section and speak on some of the things. Okay, it says several times my mom left my dad to live with her mom. Then she would return bags in tow. Shortly thereafter, my sister was born. I wish I could say the fighting stopped, but sadly it didn't. When you have seven people living in the three-bedroom, one bathroom, 500 square foot home, a boiling point will erupt. On this occasion, my sister was sitting on my mom's lap when the argument between mom and dad started. Next thing I remember seeing was my sister on the floor, the chest mirror was broken, and my mom and dad were going at it again. Luckily, my sister wasn't injured. However, this time things were different between mom and dad. As with previous fights, mom would leave for a few days or weeks, then come back. This time, as she packed her bags and stepped out the back door into the darkness of a humid summer night, she turned around, holding my sister in her arms, and asked if my brothers and I wanted to go with her or stay with our dad. In our minds, this was just another repeat of previous scenes played out in the previous chapters of our life. However, today, this chapter of our life ended abruptly. My brother and I looked at each other and uttered the words, "We will stay with Dad." I will never forget the look of defeat overtaking my mom as she slowly turned away to hide the tears flowing from her eyes. We watched our mom put her bags and our sister in the car of the person taking her to her mom's house. Yeah. Until this day, I can't remember who that person was. But on this night, something also changed within my mom that brought her to the point of saying, "Enough is enough." I believe my mom realized the broken pieces of our dysfunctional family began taking on collateral damage. Collateral damage aimed squarely at the mind, heart, and memory of her children. I would like to stress this crucial point. So often, the victim of domestic abuse is advised to return to the abuser based on biblical grounds of Matthew 19:9, which states, "Now I tell you that whoever divorces his wife, except for sexual immorality, and marries another woman, um, commits adultery." However, in Matthew 19:8, Jesus said it was because of your hardness of heart that Moses permitted you to divorce your wives, but it was not this way from the beginning. I would like to focus on the hardness of heart. I'm I'm almost done, but I want to read this section.
oh
This is
no, take your time.
okay. Okay. I said I would like to focus on the hardness of heart. If your abuser's heart has hardened to the surrender of repentance, you should leave the abuser and the abusive environment. Whether the abuser is male or female, love and obedience does not subject itself to what may masquerade as love. I'm going to read that section, that one thing, of whether
That's
the abuser
powerful.
is male or female. Love and obedience does not subject itself to what may masquerade as being love. In other words, just saying the words "I love you" only to be a perpetual repeater of the abuse is exactly what James 4:17 talked about, which is, if anyone then knows the good that they ought to do and doesn't do it, it is sin for them. Say, contextually, James was talking about boasting about tomorrow, but as a matter of principle, we instinctively know it is wrong to abuse someone in any form or manner. However, what happens is the abuser becomes the master manipulator by giving empty promises, intentionally twisting scripture, saying no one will ever love you like I love you, or make outright threats like, "If you leave, I will kill you and myself." Beloved, this isn't loving. This is manipulation that preys on our esteem, fears, and hope for change. God has created you for better. You are to be loved, for the Father is love and commands us to love one another as he has loved us. Nowhere in Jesus' words do we see hate or abuse one another as I've hated and abused you. Uh, okay, this is coming up on the last part. Please hear me on this. In Matthew 11, 28, 29, Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your soul." Okay, this is a very key point. If the rest you seek is not found in the situation in which you have been ill advised to return to, then we must realize that the direction in which we were advised to return is not in line with receiving the rest Jesus ensured all who come to him will receive. Love protects and it upholds the truth, free of yokes or bondage. Love is gentle, kind, never forsaken, and looks like the one who petitions us to come to him, learn from him, and take your yoke upon him. This, beloved, is advice you can follow. And I really wanted to share that segment because
Man, that's powerful. I was reading along with you in your book, Think and Grow in Grace. That is so powerful.
yeah, because it's like that the prayer is that something that we share today will be the one thing that somebody's been waiting to hear, the one thing that will spark that aha moment, the one thing that will will give the person the courage that they've been seeking to make a move to remove themselves from that situation. And I think, like I said before, I think understanding what love truly is, what the foundation of love is, what love looks like, who you are as a person within, and then that will uh, that uh, that what was said or what I was just read would be the key factors that will help someone to just remove themselves from that situation.
Wow, I love that. That's one of my favorite. I love all the chapters in that book, but that's one of my um, favorite chapters. And thank you for taking the time to read that too. And once again, we want to encourage all of our followers. Uh, I told you this book is so connected to this subject because you've actually lived this experience.
Yeah,
You've actually been there. And if you want more, there's so much more in this book. It's called Think and Grow in Grace. The information is on the screen. You can order it at Amazon.com/ Lionel Sneed. I think that book will benefit you greatly.
yeah.
So the next question is, if the parent, and we're referring to the victim now, if the parent stays or the victim stays, what message is he or she sending to the children?
Well, I think this ties nicely into what I just read. When the situation um, was where my mom was leaving, and so even though she had her bags packed and everything, my brothers and I, we just looked at this as being business as usual. That okay, that the same thing that has been transpiring for years was just going to happen again. Mom and dad
Mhm.
got in a fight. Mom would leave, spend a little bit of time with her mother, and then she would come back. So we just felt that this was a break that they were taking, and then after they took that break, then she would come back, and then our dysfunction would continue because it's what we knew, it's what we experienced, it's what became normalized for our life. And I think the dangers of staying in that situation is that it becomes a pattern and a routine, and kids will internalize as being just normal. It's just how it is. It
Yeah.
is what it is. Basically, is what we say today is that it is what it is. And so if that situation continues, then not only will it be internalized, but it has the potential to be repeated. Be repeated, meaning that when your children begin to come of age or get in a situation where they're in relationships, they will tend to repeat the same behavior because it's been
Mm-hmm.
internalized. And there's some things that I can speak about with that as well. Um, and I'll share a personal thing, with that. Like I said, my wife and we've been married for 21 years. That's my best friend. But what I realized is that um, was that there was a part of there's a part of me that struggles to resolve conflict.
Yeah.
Okay, and I remember my wife and we were in a disagreement, and I was in the room, and she came in the room, and we were talking, and she said something that not only opened my eyes, but it broke my heart because it made me realize that, okay, man, you are repeating some of the same things that you saw and witnessed and said that you would never do. And basically what happened, she said, okay, you don't physically abuse a hitman. Okay, you don't do that. Yeah. But what you do is that you don't resolve conflict and you use your words, you
Mm-hmm.
know, to shut me down. And when she said that, I was like, oh, I saw I saw some of the similarities of what my mom and dad went through when they were coming out. What I saw was that, okay, when my mom would let's see, they would get in an argument or whatnot, and my mom, she would get the best of my dad in regards to expressing the point, and he wouldn't like that, and then that's when the blows would start. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, you know what, I was doing the same thing. The difference is I wasn't physically hitting her, but the verbal abuse part and trying to shut that down. Okay, I was definitely doing that. And that's when I realized that, man, I need help.
Mm-hmm.
I need help. And my wife and I were talking. I'm like, what, okay, I need to go to counseling and therapy and work on me first, work on me, because it's like a lot of time when you're in a situation, you can get focused on the other person, think that, okay, well, they're the problem or
Yeah,
whatever.
it's
And
them.
yeah, and it's like that person can internalize it as well, that they're the problem. For so long, one of the reasons why they would stay in the situation is because they feel that it's their fault, that they're the problem. But what I realized, I'm like, you know what, I I'm the problem here. I need to deal with this. So I started going to therapy,
Was
and
it hard for you to acknowledge? I mean, you said she said that to you, but was that hard for you to acknowledge that what she said, or
it
was
was
it more, or was it more of a awakening? Like,
what
she got a point here.
yeah, it was it was a painful awakening, but a much needed awakening, you know. And let's see, I think the thing that uh, one of my aha moments during therapy was that, you know, my therapist said, "Well, you know what? You don't know how to resolve conflict because you've never been given a good example of how to resolve conflict." And I was like, "Wow, it really hit the point because the examples that I saw was not a resolving of conflict; it was an escalation of it,
Yeah,
and it was an escalation of it. Then it was drop it off and leave it just like it was, and the issue was not resolved because
I
it would still repeat itself."
I think I've struggled with that in the past too, because I always confuse conflict with confrontation.
Right.
Woo!
Right, right.
And I always thought, and there is a difference between conflict and confrontation, because sometimes um, when there were issues that need to be addressed, sometimes that was hard to always viewed everything, almost everything as confrontational when it really wasn't.
Mm.
So
Wow.
that's just my experience. But man, I'm really enjoying the broadcast, and um, people are really enjoying it and commenting. And
Mm.
as I said, please comment, please share the video if you're watching right now. Should one stay in an abusive marriage? Let us know in the comment section. We'll be glad to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts. I have friends from all over the globe that I've reached out to, and I asked them, I said, now, what are your thoughts? Should one stay in an abusive marriage? And they sent me, all of them sent me videos sharing. Some of them are
Right.
sharing their experience, some of them are giving their opinions. Um, we're going to take a break. It'll probably go about 10, 15 minutes, and we'll be right back. But I want to ask you to just sit back, relax, listen to these stories. I really hope they inspire you, and we will be right back.
Hey there, my name's Lisa, and I was just asked by Henry to give my perspective on a subject matter that he's covering. And the subject is, should we stay in a relationship where there's abuse because there are children in that abusive relationship? In other words, should we stay in a relationship where there's abuse for the sake of the children, to not break the family up? And I would say the short answer for me is no. And the reason why is I feel very strongly that children, they're very affected by what they see through their parents. They're very affected, and if they see, abuse, they're not seeing love. And I believe children need to see love, and they need to be in an environment where it's free from anxiety and free from chaos and turmoil. And usually in abusive relationships, you see a lot of that. And unfortunately, the kids actually end up being kind of victimized in it and stay silent a lot of times. They're just observers, but they're seeing a lot and they're taking in a lot. And it's, I think, even statistically true that sometimes they go on from that and can become abusive as well. So it's not healthy at all to stay in that relationship just for the sake of, the children. I believe it's actually healthier if you can break away, and the healthy parent would take the children, have the children, and model what love looks like, away from that abuse. And they will thrive in that environment rather than stay in the relationship where there'll be a lot of anxiety and stress and a lot of conflict that they're not going to understand. So I don't think that you should stay in any relationship where there's abuse for children at all. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Reverend Dion Boyce, and when asked the question if one should stay in abusive marriages or abusive relationships, my answer is absolutely not. And the reason I say that is because usually the people that are the abusive adult, or the one that is the abuser in the marriage or relationship, does not only abuse the other adult or the spouse, they also abuse the children. I don't have children, but I am a product of an abusive marriage, of a couple of abusive marriages. And what happened was my father would beat up on my mother. So I remember my mother being beat up. I remember my mother being mistreated. I remember my mother being emotionally abused, physically abused, but also my father would abuse me. So my mother finally left my father, but she got right back into another abusive relationship some years later. And what happened with that relationship was he was abusing her. He was physically abusing her, emotionally abusing her, and he was also abusing me. Because the abuser, doesn't matter who you are, how old you are, but if you're in that space, you will all be abused. So what also happened was when I grew up and I started to have my own relationships, I felt like, okay, abuse is how marriages work. Abuse is how I get people to do what I need them to do. Abuse is how I get people to love me. And many of my relationships out of the home were very abusive. And the reason they were abusive was because all that I saw was my mother being abused and me being abused, and I set that example was set for me, and I walked with it in my life. Should people stay in abusive relationships because they have children? Absolutely not. Because the children are generally hurt more by the abuser psychologically, physically, and emotionally than the other adult. God bless you.
Hey guys, Catherine Lynn here. Henry asked a very important question, and that question was, should you stay with your spouse who you've had children with if they are abusive? And my short answer to that question is no. You should absolutely not stay with your abuser. If you are being abused, you should absolutely separate from your spouse and get to a place where you and your family can be safe, you and your children can be safe, and get professional help right away for you and your kids. And hopefully your spouse who is abusive is also seeking out professional help. And when I say professional help, I don't mean your pastor. It's fine to talk to your pastor about what's going on in your marriage and in your life, but most pastors are not licensed therapists, licensed professionals in that arena. So, and I've heard many horror stories of pastors telling people to stay in abusive situations just because God hates divorce. Please don't do that. That is a big no. Do not stay in an abusive marriage just because your pastor tells you that God hates divorce. Absolutely separate, get yourself and your children into a safer situation. Seek out professional help, and I'm not talking about a couple of weeks. You know, however long it takes for your spouse to get the healing that they need to no longer be abusive. Whether it's months or years, that's what they should be seeking out, and you should not settle for anything less. And hopefully, if that works out, then you can reconcile safely. But if it doesn't, and your partner's not willing to get the counseling they need, then unfortunately, that may result in the end of your marriage, just so you and your children could be safe and not be in an abusive situation. So I hope that helps somebody. And Henry, thanks for asking such an important question.
My name is Julie Madufora. I am a registered nurse and also a psychotherapist. Should a parent stay in an abusive relationship because of their kids? Well, as a psychotherapist, I ask questions. My first question would be, are you really doing it for the kids? And if so, exactly what are you trying to achieve? Also, if your child is in the same situation you are now, would you advise them to stay? I know it's not easy to just get up and go. There are many factors that affect this kind of decision, but you do have to think not just for yourself, not just for these kids for where they are now, but for their future, because they end up becoming like people that raised them. So then it's up to you. What are you going to do? Are you going to stay or are you going to leave? It's up to you. Thank you.
The question of whether a spouse should stay in an abusive relationship, even if they've had kids with the abusive spouse. I think that, you know, the person that's in that relationship, my personal opinion about it is they should do whatever is in their best interest. I think that, you know, I think ultimately separating would be better for the kids because, you know, I'm pretty sure if abuse is going on, who knows what that other spouse is going to do. And it's actually a good move for your kids because you're not putting your kids in harm's way. And then they're not, you know, witnessing, you know, their mom or their dad, you know, being abused. So I think that, you know, I don't think that a spouse, if they're being abused or if whoever's being abused, or the party, I should say, that is being abused in the relationship should stay in it. I think that, you know, yeah, you might be the one experiencing the abuse, but your kids are witnessing it and may or may not, well, I should say, well, they might suspect, but, there's trauma that might, if they see that, if they witness that, there's trauma that goes on in their mind, and that's something that they have to grow up with, you know, on in their mind, you know, witnessing their mom or their dad being abused. So yeah, that's my take on it right there.
Hi, I'm Lori Brown, and I'm coming to you discussing about abusive marriages and leaving. Even though you have kids, if you stay in an abusive marriage or relationship, you are doing them a very big disservice. You're not helping them at all. If anything, you're just teaching them that abuse is right instead of wrong. It is okay to leave. It is okay to go ahead and be safe. There is nothing wrong with leaving. Jesus did not intend for us to stay in very bad situations. He never intended us to become someone else's punching bag or their object of abuse, someone for them to take their frustrations out on. I can say firsthand myself that since I escaped such a marriage, that my life became that much better. And I am now very happily married to the love of my life, a man whom God did bring into my life. And he is not only good to myself, but he is very good to what he calls now our daughter. But the thing is that had I stayed, I would never know the blessings that I have now. My daughter would always think that men were abusive, and she would always go for men like that. I'm very pleased to say that she does not, and she knows the difference. And she knows that she does not have to put up with that kind of baloney. She knows that she is loved, and that she can be safe, and that she can make it on her own, and that she does not need to have to put up with someone mistreating her. She knows that she can come to me at any time, and that the police will be involved. As far as biblical stances go, do not fall for the bunch of baloney about that you are not allowed to divorce and remarry because someone is mistreating you. In fact, you are. And anyone who tells you otherwise is wrong.
Hey butterflies, my name is Sharon K. Griffin, aka Madam Butterfly. The question at hand is, should a woman or a person stay in an abusive marriage if they have children? In my opinion, I would say no. I would say no because I feel that the children suffer more when you stay in a situation that is toxic and unhealthy. I believe that we should all love ourselves. And if someone doesn't love me the way I want to be loved, then I don't need to be with them, right? So when children are in abusive situations, a lot of times they too take on those characteristics, either accepting abuse or being an abuser, right? And we don't want our children growing up like that. It's so much abuse, period, in the world, in people's households. I always ask people, would you want your child to be abused? So why would you stay in that type of situation? For me, it's unhealthy. I've experienced it, not physical abuse because I'm a fighter, right? But emotional abuse. And my children asked me when they got older, why didn't you leave soon enough? Like, you're educated, you could have left. Why'd you stay? And the only answer that I give to anyone who knows that I was in that type of situation was because I felt that God wanted me to be in that situation, which is ludicrous. A loving God would not want you in a toxic relationship.
Hey, this is Janine Nicole, and I am making this short video in response to Henry Harris's question, should someone stay in an abusive marriage for the sake of their children? In an abusive marriage, I don't believe anybody should be staying in a situation that is not safe, whether you have children or not. Abuse can be varied, it can be very complex, and there's many layers to it. And many people enter into marriages deeply in love with the best of intentions. And when dynamics of abuse arise, the first step that needs to be taken is professional help and reaching out to those that can support that couple, navigating those issues, and also creating an environment of safety, learning healthy boundaries, communication, and alternative outlets to get anger out that isn't projected onto one another. And this is especially important when you have children involved, because children are delicate and resilient, yes, but they are soaking in everything that a couple is going through in their formative years. And it is the parent's responsibility to show love, to show healthy communication skills. So my answer is no. I do not believe that someone should stay in an abusive marriage for the sake of the children, and that they should get the help and support they need to try to see if they can heal that marriage. And if not, they should leave. God does not ever guide someone to stay in situations that are unsafe.
Question was asked whether someone should stay in an abusive marriage, even though because they have kids. Well, I have to say no. I mean, it wouldn't be a good idea, because just like you as the spouse may have been abused, the children could potentially be abused as well. I mean, that's putting all of you in danger. And I don't think that's a good idea. So my opinion, no, I don't think it's good for anyone to be in an abusive marriage or relationship, period, because you can never tell how a person's mind is going to be from one minute to the next in situations like that. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
My name is Jacide Davis, and I am an intimacy doula. I'm here to share my thoughts on the question of, should a person stay in an abusive marriage if they have children? My answer to that is absolutely not. They should not be obligated to stay in an abusive situation just because they have children together. It is not healthy for the children to witness abuse, and it's definitely not okay to be abused. And I also want to point out that some people think, if there's physical abuse, then that's okay. You can leave. But please remember that abuse is physical, mental, emotional, verbal, spiritual. All of those types of abuse exist, and they are not okay. And I do not believe that a person is obligated to stay in covenant with someone who's abusing them, regardless if they're children or not. It's not healthy on any level to do that. And that is my opinion. I stand on that. Although I came from a background of being taught that even if you do divorce, you can't remarry. That's a whole another conversation to be had. But get out of those situations. Start over. Be happy. And live your life. Live your best life. For people who are in abusive relationships and marriages, get a game plan and get out. Get out. You do not have to stay just because there are children.
Welcome back to the Brother Henry and You show. Did you enjoy those testimonies?
Man, those are amazing.
And those are just friends I have and I want to say thank you to all of those friends that.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you for taking this time to be on the show. So we're getting to the second half of the program. Should one stay in an abusive marriage because they had children with the abuser? Let us know in the comment section. Share this video. We already have people, as you can tell, that are commenting and engaging. So I'm really excited about that. And I feel like we can just help one person.
Right.
This whole show will be worth it all. And we want this to reach as many people as possible. So now we get back into the second half of our program. My guest is my friend Lionel Sneed. We've been friends a while. He's from Fort Worth, Texas. So once again, welcome back. We're so glad to have you on the show this morning. The next question I want to ask is: we keep hearing these words: get out, move, leave. But how does one really do that when they have no strategy, no plan, no support,
I mean, that's
or at least they feel that way. That I know it's out there,
right.
but in their mind they're like, I got no plan, I got no strategy, I got no. I mean, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, gosh, and like I said, I don't think it's any one answer to this. I, 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 golly, that's a hard one. But it's like I guess the one thing that comes to mind uh, that I'm hearing in my spirit is sometimes there's a fear of a phrase where it said that you have to do it afraid.
Yeah,
It's like sometimes people talk about, well, there's whether it's speaking or whether it's just something that they have to do that brings about an element of fear, and it's usually centered around something that you've never done before, a new situation that's presented before you, and you have the fear of not knowing the outcome because it's something that you have not experienced. But a lot of times when you just step out and do something afraid, so many times where God told people to go, told people to move, or do certain situation, they didn't experience it. It was daunting to them, and but a lot of times when they would move, that God would provide the way as they made that step out on faith and move. And so for some situations, you just have to do it afraid, and realize that some things will fall into place along the way. I know that that's easier said than done. Please,
yeah,
please hear me. I'm not taking away from that because there are so many circumstances that's centered around it, especially when children are involved, and the person's heart is to provide nurturing and caring, even within the situation that they're in. So there are situations that paralyze a person that keep from moving, which we talked about a lot of that earlier as well. But
yeah,
sometimes, like I say, you have to do it afraid. You know,
yeah. And I want to, and I celebrate everyone who has done it afraid.
right?
It's a challenge, because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to come against you. You don't know what's going. I mean, it's almost like walking on eggshells. I mean, think about being in an abusive environment for that long, and now you're like, it's like a bird, that's trapped in a nest, and
Mm,
it may struggle a little bit, but it finally spreads its wings and fly away. So,
right. And see one other thing. So, sometimes the way is right before you.
hmm
It's right before you, but your circumstances, that the years of abuse and being emotionally torn down, it clouds that way that's right before you. And that
yeah,
way could be someone who's very supportive, someone who's that safe space for you. It could be right there, standing right before you, right before. But it's like it's so many factors that will keep you from seeing that and keep you from reaching out to that.
yeah, that's good. So many have claimed that they stayed with the abuser during the abuse. Why should we not be so quick? This is such a powerful question.
Yeah.
Why should we not be so quick to judge that person's situation?
Um,
Cause
go ahead.
you know how some people are. They're like, oh, I don't know why they're still there. They should just leave. What's wrong with them? They're insane. But the reality of it is, do we really know what's going on behind closed doors?
Right. You know what? I think something that you hear a lot is that, or something that I realize, uh, hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's like, there are so many people who are in situations like this, whether they are the abused or the abuser. They're broken. They're broken in ways of just being there to still be accepting of that abuse or being the one that's given that abuse. And it's like they're broken to the point where they have a twisted reality of our viewpoint of how to treat someone or how to be treated because of what they've experienced, what they've eternalized. And some people haven't been fortunate enough to where when they've been in that situation to have the insight or the inwardness to say, well, you know what, I experienced this, but I'm not going to repeat the cycle. I'm going to create a new path. I'm going to create a new reality that doesn't include this, uh, but I, I don't know. I just think that as I said before, each person's situation is different, and you can't sit there and say that this person should do that when you're not actually in the situation. You don't
Yeah.
know where their mindset is. You don't know where their heart is. You don't know um, what they've experienced along the way. You don't know what they may be further trying to protect themselves from or their children from. It's just
Hmm.
so many factors, and it's no one answer. And something else that I thought about is that so many times, um, sometimes the person that's involved in an abusive relationship, a lot of times there were signs of that person's tendency
Hmm.
before the relationship start or in the initial part of the relationship, the courtship, the dating, the friendship part. There may be the I'm certain that there were signs that reared its ugly head. But a lot of times we excuse away those things that we see. We're like, well, okay, sometimes that person may blame themselves for that person acting out in that way. Or you want to um, establish some grace for that person and know that, okay, well, you give them some wiggle room per se, or you just want to see the best in that person.
Yeah.
But uh, a lot of times that who that person is or that issue, that underlying problem, it presents itself in a way, but we discard it. And then when you've gotten further and further down in the relationship, then you get stuck more and more in quicksand until you find yourself where you can't get out. So many things.
Yeah, that is so true. And you hear a lot of people say that if the abuser is abusing the victim, is there a strong potential that that's happening to the child as well? Can you talk about that for a second?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
Uh,
why is that?
yeah. Well, I mean, just with my personal experience, my mom, she was physically abused. She was emotionally abused. Just traumatized in so many ways. And uh, we we experienced that kind of abuse as well. Um, uh, a lot of it was the verbal aspects, where you got you know the verbalization of you're ignorant, you you're you're dumb, just words like that,
Hmm.
words that take place in the fertile soul and minds of a young, impressionable mind. A
Yeah.
young, impressionable mind in which the the one people that you look for encouragement, for just for more support and security is your parents. And if you're hearing that from your parents, then that's very detrimental to your outcome on life. That's very detrimental to your identity as to who you are as a person, because that's the one person that has a huge impact in shaping your identity. So it's like, yeah, if they abuse the the spouse, then the children will be abused. And it's just basically where that's what that person knows. That person, they're broken. And like I said before, hurt people tend to hurt people.
Yeah.
So, it's like a lot of times where like I say, if we didn't get it from the verbal aspect, then it will be from the physical aspects as well. And a lot of times it would escalate, whether in the discipline portion of it, um, it would escalate and tend to move from one thing to the next. In other words, the physical, then the verbal, or sometimes you would get the verbal, then the physical. But it all tied in together. And then,
Thank you for answering that. And I think that's unfortunate. I think that's really sad. That children have to go through situations like that. And if you're watching, I sympathize with you. If you've been in situations like that, I'm sure it's not easy for anyone.
yeah, and then at the same time, like I said, if that abuser, if that's what they saw and they experienced when they were coming up, then there's a high probability that they will repeat the same pattern.
It's like repeating history, pretty much.
High probability. There are instances where that doesn't happen, uh, or there are incidents where maybe a certain thing will happen, but this will happen, won't happen. Okay, and sometimes that's consciously, and sometimes that's unconsciously.
Yeah,
Like I said, I think that one of the keys is one, getting to the point where you acknowledge that you have a problem and you seek a professional help.
yeah,
I think I'm one of the individuals on the video. They said to seek to seek professional help. Okay, I'm not saying that spiritual help is not warranted. That's good. There's a place for that as well. But I
hmm
think just seeking professional help, someone who specializes in it, and they're able to dig a lot deeper in so many ways, and because like I said, just when I spoke to my therapist, and he just basically mentioned to me where I've never been shown good examples of how to resolve conflict. That was an aha moment for me. And I couldn't wait to share that with my wife, because I feel that was one of the root causes of just, why I was, just being not resolving conflict and being verbally abusive to my wife. Okay, one the physical part. I was like, okay, I'm not touching that. I'm not crossing that line. But I was being verbally abusive, which shutting my wife down. When I didn't agree with something that she mentioned, or just didn't want to resolve the conflict, I'd run away from it. I was shut down. So you know,
I want to tell you to thank you for your transparency,
yeah, I look.
because most people want to admit that, and I believe that maybe I think everybody to some extent may have been abusive and may not been aware of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm sure I have been too, not like physically, but maybe in other ways that maybe either I refused to acknowledge at the time. And I think everybody has the potential to be. Sometimes I wonder if the abuser even knows what he's doing or what she's doing.
Yes and no.
it's
Yes and no, because it's like a lot of
it's like taking a knife stabbing somebody. Like, I'm not stabbing you. I'm not hurting you.
right, or if not that, sometimes some behavior or habits become like breathing.
Yeah,
It's just natural. It's just what you've been accustomed to and you've internalized as being normal. So a lot of times you don't realize that you're doing something until uh, you, you, it's a blessing when you have an aha moment,
yeah,
you know. And I know for me, it was just that when my wife mentioned to me that okay, well, you don't physically hit me, but you verbally say things to shut me down. And I remember when she said that at first, like I say, it broke my heart. But then also I remember praying that night and asking God to help me to see not only me in that situation, but help me to see my wife and help me to see how uh, I'm not becoming of who he's called me to be.
yeah,
Be one who presents my wife as radiant, to be one who protects her and loves her like Christ loved the church.
yeah.
And it's like, man, when I pray that, it's like he revealed that to me, and it's like when he did, then man, I this is like I remember just just sobbing, just thinking about, man, this has been going on for such a long time. I've got to be different. I've got to be who God called me to be,
Yeah.
not only as his child and who he already predestined me to be, not uh, not what I'd been involved in and that behavior that I internalized. That's not who he called me to be. That's
Yeah.
not who he says I am. And it's like when I came to that point, then I realized that, okay, I need help, and
Yeah.
and that's been very helpful. It's gotten my wife and I to a point where we're working on our relationship. We're working on our communication, and I mean, she's got help as well, where she's focusing on herself as well to deal with things that she's dealing with, and that's helping us to come together in the middle. Especially just being married for 21 years, it should never be where you become stagnant. It should.
I was just thinking about that, how amazing that is, because some people think that if you're married for a long periods of time, that the growth process stops, and that there's not anything. I'm talking about individually that you don't need to work on
Right.
or whatnot. And for you to say, I'm working on this, my wife is work, she got things she's working on herself, and in turn, that really brings that couple, the love just becomes much deeper,
Absolutely.
and to be 20 years into, and I hope that's an inspiration to many married couples that's watching um, right now. So this is the last question, and I really hope everybody's enjoying the show. Many people may be watching right now, and like I said, they feel like they have no support. I feel like that there is. So, what? And I'll give the National Domestic Violence hotline number and stuff like that. But what resources? What can you share for someone who may want to reach out for assistance?
Okay, yeah. I think like you said, with that national hotline information that you're going to give.
And the numbers on the screen is 1-800-799-7233. That's 1-800-799-7233. And there may even be resources in your community.
Right. And I've also they have where you can text. You can There's a text start to 88788. That's text start to 88788. And the website is www.thehotline.org. That's
Okay.
www.thehotline.org. It's like if you don't feel like you have uh, so like the support structure around, then you can reach out to these resources, and they deal with thousands,
Oh yeah.
unfortunately, thousands of cases and people who have called in, and that say perhaps by reaching out to them or calling one of these numbers, texting one, they may just provide that avenue for you to embrace and take that you never thought about before, that you never thought were possible. And like I said, aha moments, they are available and they can come to you from the least expected source,
Yeah.
from the least expected resource. So my prayer is today that any of these resources, if you don't have that support structure, that any of these resources will provide that aha moment for you. It will provide that avenue of escape, that avenue of freedom, that avenue of deliverance for you that you can embrace. Um, if you do have a support structure, I pray that that support structure is a safe place for you. Now, when I say safe place, I'm not just talking about a place where you can go for refuge to be safe. I'm also talking about a safe place of trust,
Hmm.
meaning that this is a person or people that you can go to, and you know that they can keep things in confidence for you, if that's what you request, that this is a place where you can go, where people will not judge you, people will not be where they're tearing you down, but they are embracing, loving, and uplifting you. And if children involved, that they are doing that the same. And that prayerfully, it's an environment to where uh, it gives you an example of what family life should be like, what
Yeah.
love should look like. That, okay, yeah, on this side, this is the hell that we've been living. This is a hell that I've been living. But I get to come on this side and I get to see what it should be like, what a relationship that's Christ and how he intended for us to have life and to have it abundantly and to live life to the full and to live life in love and in nourishment and protection.
Man, I appreciate you so much for being
Likewise.
on the show today. I figured it would go about an hour and a half or so, and we have. And I want to encourage everyone that's watching right now, um, if you would go and order the book, Think and Grow in Grace. And what chapter was the one? Was it chapter 9 from Broken?
Yeah, chapter 9. Is if they yes, chapter 9, which is entitled From Broken to Beautiful. And let's see, if you went to Amazon, just type in my name, Lionel Sneed. That's Lionel Sneed. Just type in that, and all the books that I've written will come up, and you see that book. It's in audio format, paperback format, and in Kindle format as well. So.
Thank you. And I want to let the public know that this man has made me who I am today, has encouraged me, has motivated me.
Likewise.
To reach, I don't know, that may be an understatement, reach for the stars. Okay. I feel like this guy has come in my life to reach farther than that. I mean, there's not a time where he hasn't spoken things into my life and they haven't manifested. Even when there's times where I feel like it was undeserving or I wasn't qualified for it. His famous saying that he said to me a few years ago was, "Henry, stop it. You were made for this moment."
Yeah. Amen. Amen.
And he said, not only are you called to do it, but you are coded to do what you do. So that's profound. So, and it's very rare to find friendships like that today. So I just wanted to publicly acknowledge you and say thank you for being a part of my life. Thank you for being on the show today. Once again, I want to ask everyone to share this video. Don't forget to comment. I know those comments are going to be coming through out the day in the next several days. Let us know, should one stay in an abusive relationship because they have children? Let us know if you say yes. Let us know if you say no. Let us know why. And until next time, may God bless you and thank you for watching.
We hope you have enjoyed today's program. We want to connect with you. Visit us at facebook.com/The Brother Henry and You Show, or visit us on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Henry Harris 100. We're so grateful you tuned in today and hope you have a fantastic day.